What's up, friends? Welcome to another Nolan Rossi podcast. A little note on the front end of this one. Everything about this podcast right now and where I'm headed, think of it like a invitation to be on the journey that I've been on, which is, how do I say it? Well, I often will say, I'm just learning how to be Nolan Rossi. Another perspective of what I'm going to talk about today, I've thought about as an invitation to become an expert of yourself. So I hope you keep those things in mind as we dive into this today. I'm so excited. Okay, so I recently finished a 3-day water fast, and what an experience that was. You can check out previous podcasts and videos if you want to learn more about that process. But all of that was setting me up for this next 90-day challenge. And the first thing I want to say about that is challenge? That doesn't sound like the mode that I've been in. So I've reframed even that and thought about this time as a 90-day opportunity, because when you're in the process of trying to do something new, of creating the world that you want to live in, then sometimes you have to rewrite the story in your mind, and it has to be in such a way that allows this new way of being to come in with ease. So I've realized how important it is for me to do this reframing, to create a different story, to use different words so that there's a new narrative around the things that I'm doing, whether they're new things or old things. Because when I think about competition, I think about things like hustling and grinding, and yeah, that's not what we're doing here. Today, I'm going to be talking about the space of health and wellness and nutrition. And there's a lot of that language in there that just, it just creates a feeling in here that just repels me, that I don't want to be around. So that's not what we're doing here. We're not grinding, we're not hustling. I like to say it like this. We are following our curiosity into new things with as much intensity and density as that thing may ask of us. That is in a healthy relationship with our body, our mind, our nervous system. So, yeah, that's my new definition of what I would call intuition, the thing that is pulling me into things these days. And it's given me a superpower in a way, because I can walk into a space that has a lot of let's fucking go energy, if you know what I'm talking about. And I actually have a lot of ease in this space that is otherwise a different sort of energy altogether. And there's this surfing language and analogy that comes up, because like many sports cultures, surfing has all this really violent language in it about ripping and killing and like grinding. And it's this idea that when you surf, you're taking things very aggressively. You're going down the line fast, your turns are sharp, you're digging in, you're riding to the lip of the wave. You might be doing some aerials, right? It's this very aggressive thing. But there's this whole other way with surfing that is about trim, about finding the pocket and making the smallest amount of moves possible to find yourself in that perfect spot in the wave where your energy and the wave's energy come in to a sort of unity, and you're just in the pocket, and you're just in the pocket and on your way. And that is what I'm talking about here, which is very foreign in this fitness space that I've been exploring for the last, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 years. So let me start by taking you back, giving you a little bit of a backstory on all of this. I was mostly an artistic kid. I was in theater. I did art classes. I enjoyed music and making records and making home videos with my friends, all of this sort of self expression art. And that's who I've been for most of my life. Now, I played sports, I played soccer and basketball, and I really liked it, but I was never a gym person. I would go if a friend asked, "Hey, you want to go to the gym and lift some weights?" But I always felt out of place and nothing really stuck or pulled me in there. And then in my late 20s, I got pulled into this thing called P90X. I imagine some of you have heard about it. Man, that Tony Horton guy just pulled me in with his charm and his good looks, and with this apparent system and plan that could really change things about your relationship with your body. And it's like I could see the infomercial, I could see the production value, I could see the sales, I could see all of the gimmicky stuff around it. And yet I would watch those commercials and I would go, yeah, but all these people look happy. All these people look really fit. And I'm wanting some sort of change. So I'm not going to sign up for a gym. I'm not going to get a trainer. I'm not going to do those things. Those don't appeal to me. But getting something that I can do in my home, that sounds like something I could do. And I got it and I loved it. I mean, it was my jam for almost a full year. And it was the first time that I got stronger, that I lost weight, that I could notice a difference of how I look and felt. And I thought, this is good. I'm gonna keep this thing around. Um, but programs and other people's advices, I found only go so far, because it's like when you experience someone else's deep knowing, you can learn a lot by learning from that person, by reading their book or taking their course or doing their video series. But then there's this whole other way of knowing that only comes when you begin to internalize the knowledge, test, and start to apply things and try things and fail and succeed, because that's how you find out what works for you. That's how you actually connect data and concepts and information with real life change. And so then I fell into a season where I just kind of wrote off that I just didn't have the genetics or the body type to put on muscle, to get lean. Like, it just didn't work, it seemed, for me. And that was the story that I told myself that created my reality for probably the next 10 years. But then something changed in my life, and it was kids. And any parent out there is going to know what I'm talking about, but there's something really interesting that happens once you have the responsibility of a young human being who's going to wake up when they're going to wake up, need what they need whenever they want, and it's going to disrupt everything about your life. And suddenly, a couple extra drinks feels differently the next day. When you've got less sleep, there are things that come up with your emotions and your stresses and your anxieties. Everything about your life can really flip and change. And that creates stress, not just in the mind, but in your body. And so it wasn't long into being a parent that I realized I'm going to have to be more conscious about how I treat my body if I want to show up the way that I want to for my partner, for my wife, for my kids. And so I had that awareness pretty early on, a couple years into being a parent, and I started trying things out. I started trying some programs, some workouts. I tried to go for bike rides and just move more. And that was all helpful. That was good. But I wasn't finding any sort of routine that I loved and that was consistently helping me. It felt very wobbly, trying to find the right time, place, really space in my life to give my body the attention that it requires, that it deserves, that it really needs for me to be who I am. So now COVID comes around, and I discover this program called Basement Beast that was specifically created and targeted for a bunch of people that could not go to their gyms and had to work out at home. And so I bought that program. I bought a set of resistance bands, and that's what I did for a long time. And it taught me all sorts of things that I did not expect, because it took me more out of the here's the program to here are the concepts. And in that program, I learned things like time under tension and progressive overload and how to think about sets and volume and all of these words and ideas and metaphors in this world that was so foreign to me. But it really was the first step into bringing me into this world that gave me some foundational understanding that I would be able to build on later. And then about a year later, I'd been doing a lot of wellness, biohacking, fitness sort of deep dives on YouTube. And I found this guy named Paul Revelia, who had an incredible YouTube channel of very basic information, very advanced information. And he had been doing this for 15, maybe 20 years. And his company, ProPhysique, does this 90-day challenge every year. And it only costs $50 to enter. And there's a cash prize for whoever wins. I wasn't thinking about that when I entered this. I just saw the immense value, because you pay $50 and then you get access to this Facebook community group that's got other people that are all in this with you, sharing information, saying what works or what doesn't work. ProPhysique has a team of coaches that work with everyone from lifestyle clients, so your everyday sort of client like me, to people that do pro bodybuilding and physique sort of shows. And the coaches, about once a month or twice a month, would do these live Q&As. And so you would get not only this community, but you'd get this Q&A from coaches. They offered workout plans and nutritional plans. So it was an immense value for $50. And I thought to myself, I'm still not in the place where I'm going to buy a gym membership or even pay for a one-on-one training or coach. But for $50 and this resistant brand set that I still have from the last thing that I did, I think I can give this a go, because I've got some concepts now I'm learning. And let me tell you, that experience was incredible. I learned even more than I learned before. And I didn't win the competition, but my own personal transformation was that I lost 20 pounds and I got the strongest that I had ever been before. If you're watching this YouTube, I'll show you a picture here before and after. It's pretty significant. And I still look at that and I'm like, wow, I did that. Now, at the end of this first 90-day period, I was so amped up to continue this, but kind of like the end of any season where you've climbed a mountain or achieved something huge. It's like you have to kind of go back to doing the laundry, to cleaning the house, to doing all the mundane things. And so once the summer came, I kept up some of my habits, but not all of them. And by the end of the summer, I was feeling I was ready to redial things in, to reapply some of this knowledge and experience that I had learned. And they were doing another fall challenge. And so I thought, perfect, I'm going to be able to come into this with even more intensity, even more awareness about how this all works. But that 90-day challenge had this whole other curriculum for me to learn. Because about halfway through, I realized I was pushing my body too hard. And my body basically just said no. And a different version of me would have observed what I did and how I handled myself and seen it as a failure. But I was able to hold the entire experience with a lot more awareness and consciousness. And that opened me up to a really deep experience where I was observing and healing my relationship with food that has been with me in some ways since childhood, um, how I regulate my emotions, how I think about the culture of food that I exist in now and that is around me. Yeah, it was a really powerful sort of abyss sort of moment to stare into that at the end of the experience was so much more meaningful and powerful than simply doing really well in the next 90-day challenge. And I wouldn't be here now without that experience of failure, that experience of kind of looking into the shadows of my concepts around food and wellness and fitness and all these things. These can be really messy, sticky topics to talk about in a culture that seems hellbent sometimes on creating insecurities and also damaging our health. Ultimately, I would not be here now without that experience because now I can share all of this with you and I enjoy it so much. So, for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to be sharing about this 90 days, essentially, this 12-week process that I'm going to be going through. And so, this is week one of my 90-day body transformation. There's going to be some exciting people that I'm going to be talking to along the way. And each week, I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what some of the concepts and science behind it, and also just what has worked for me. And I'll be starting by my real simple, honestly, three-part structure to how I am going to be doing this. Much like you need three legs on a stool to support you, there are these three parts to supporting my goals that I'm going to be sharing with you. And they're the basics. And I think it's the sort of information that anyone could use to make some positive changes with your relationship to your body. So next week, I'll be sharing that with you. Until then, be well, friends.